So welcome back to the Barbells, Bikinis and Biz podcast. We have got another guest in today, and I guess another diverse topic for you all. I've got Chloe in today, who is a strong woman, which is something that I've recently become more aware of, and I think more and more people are becoming more aware of strong man, strong woman as a sport, and that's something we want to touch upon today. So I brought her on to sort of go behind the scenes really of what goes on, because I'm not very clued up, and I'm sure not many of you are actually aware of what actually goes on behind the scenes. And she's been pretty successful in the sport, to say the least, but I'll let her big herself up. She give herself a little bit of a brief introduction to yourself and the 3 fun facts about yourself to share with people.
Okay, so I'm Chloe Brennan. I am 24 and I compete as a lightweight strongwoman. I'm currently 3 times Midlands Strongest Woman, 2019 England Strongest Woman. I've podiumed at Britain's Strongest Woman twice or 3 times, I'm not sure. Twice, I think. And I recently came back from the Arnolds amateur where I placed 4th. So that's my strong woman career in a bit of a nutshell. I started competing. I did my first novice comp at the end of 2016 and my first kind of national season in 2017. So it feels like I've been doing it forever, but when I think about it, it's not that long. And my fun facts, they're not that fun, like I said to you before. But before I did Strongwoman, I worked up to kind of lower level, national level in trampolining, and I did a discipline called double mini trampoline. It's probably better for you to just Google it than for me to try and describe it, but it's really fun. So it's kind of like a cross between vault and a tumble. So you run up, and it's like a trumpet but with 2 parts, and you do a somersault onto it and another one off. It's very, very fun. I am also a learning disability nurse as well as a strong woman. Strong woman is just my hobby, although it sometimes feels like another full-time job. And my 3rd fun fact is, although I am no longer a gymnast, I can still hold a pretty epic headstand.
Ace. So, I mean, this sort of leads quite nicely on to sort of the first question, which is delving into sort of the background as how you got into this sport, and maybe, well, not gave up, that's the wrong word, but did the sort of trampolining, did that lead into the strong woman? So what happened? Why did that sort of come to an end, and how did you get into sort of the strong woman side of things?
So I've always been into sports as a kid. It's something I've always done. My dad he wasn't a pushy parent, but he'd always encourage me to do a sport. So if I chose to finish one, he'd be like, okay, that's fine, now choose something different. So I was always doing something, and I'm really grateful for that, because I know a lot of my friends growing up didn't do any sport and kind of were a bit lost. I think sport offers so much to kids, and I think it's really invaluable for them to be involved. I'm glad I was. So I did athletics, football in school. I did gymnastics, but soon figured I was far too big for gymnastics. So I'm between 5'6" and 5'7", and most of the gymnasts are about 4 foot. So that was a no-go. So that's when I got into trampolining, which I did for quite a few years. I coached as well, so I absolutely loved it, and it was a massive part of my life. I competed all the time. I made loads of friends, but then it got to a point. So I went to university, and I didn't fall out of love with it, but I just didn't get excited as much as I used to. I was injured a lot of the time, so I had a lot of issues with my knees and my shins, a bit of a back niggle as well. So there was a point where I got selected to represent the region in an English championships, and I had to give up my place because my knees were too bad. And it was just I can't carry this on forever, although I'd love to. And I still go back now every now and then to have a play because I do love it. But so that kind of dabbled off a bit, and I wasn't doing very much. I wouldn't say I was ever massively overweight, but I was not as happy with the way that I looked. I just felt a bit lazy. I was never massive into the gym. I always thought I don't want to do cardio because I've got bad knees, and I don't want to do weights because I'll get bigger. I always thought I was really bored, even though I'm not. So, but then my boyfriend was like, come on, go to the gym. I was like, "Ooh." So I started off doing like body pump classes, which are the actual devil. I would still rather pick up an extremely heavy deadlift than do a body pump class, because I think they're awful. They really hurt. So yeah, I started doing that. I started messing around with kettlebells. I was that person wandering around the gym, looking at all the machines, having a go on everything, but not really having a clue what I was doing. So that was that. And then my partner Matt started doing something called International All-Round Weightlifting, which is like a small federation. It's a drug-free federation, and they just do loads and loads and loads of really odd lifts. It's kind of like old-time strongman stuff. So they do like the Steinborn lift, they do one-hand snatches, one-hand clean and jerks, hack lifts, like where it's like a deadlift behind your legs, like loads of fun stuff. And I ended up getting involved in that. Built up a decent amount of strength in that and realised I had some potential in strength sports. Planned to go down the powerlifting route. Ended up at a strongman comp that Matt had entered off the cuff. Got talking to people. I won't tell you the whole story, but I got thrown in. Basically, there were a man down and Matt was like, Chloe, you'll do it. So I ended up deadlifting with the guys in that comp. And then speaking to Ant Brown, who runs the women's pathway in the UK. And he was like, yeah, you could be all right at this. Started training and haven't stopped. So it's kind of been a gradual progression into it, but I'm really glad I found it, even if it was by accident, and I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon.
It's kind of just like it was meant to happen. It sounds quite a cliche thing, but it seems like everything sort of just happened for a reason, and everything just sort of led to you, to your destiny to get to this point. So
and I think part of what's kept me in it is the nature of the sport. It's so supportive. Like the girls that you're against, we're all fiercely competitive, but we also want the best for each other. So as soon as we're finished competing, we'll go and cheer them on, and I think that's something that keeps us all in it, and that support is really invaluable, and I think speaks a lot for people's longevity in the sport.
No, absolutely. So I think it'd be quite interesting to look in, because like I've said, it's becoming more well known. I think with sort of the people like, Eddie Hall becoming more apparent on social media with sort of YouTube and documentaries, people are becoming more aware of it, but I still don't think people know 100% what it is. So maybe talk through what the training looks like, maybe what sort of you actually have to do in your competitions. It'd be quite interesting to know, because I myself don't know that much. It'd be interesting to know what goes on that side of things. So
we do a bit of everything, really. I think there's a big misconception that strongman is just about being strong. A lot of people that are new into the sport focus so much on their static strength, pile on loads of weight, and then aren't fit and can't move, so they lose points. So basically a strong man or strong woman competition will consist of usually 5 to 6 events, and they are pointed. So if there is 8 competitors, first place gets 8 points, second place gets 7 points, and then it goes down to 8 and they get 1 point. So that's how it's scored. So it's all good being very statically strong, but if you are only statically strong and can't move, then you're going to lose loads of points. You need to be consistent throughout. So events wise, you have your standard kind of deadlift, but that could be a max deadlift, or it could be deadlift for reps. It could be deadlift on a standard bar. It could be on an axle bar, which is a thicker bar. It could be from standard height. It could be from 15 inch. It could be from 18 inch. It could be a car deadlift. Then you have a pressing event usually. So that could be an axle bar. It could be a log. It could be a giant dumbbell, a Viking press, or a medley that involves all of those things. Then you usually have some kind of moving event. So like yoke or farmers. And again, that can be like really heavy. So you're just trying to get to the end. Or lighter, where it's really all about speed, so you need to be able to move fast, and you need to be able to transition fast if it's like 2 ways. What else is there? Or like grip events you can have, so like farms holds or Hercules holds. Everyone has seen a picture of Mark Felix with the big Hercules holds at Giants Live. And then there's like endurance events as well, which I usually hate, but in my last competition I did quite well at. So you can have carries for people often slate CrossFit, but I think CrossFit and Strongman are actually quite comparable because there are so many components of fitness that you need to have nailed. And in that as well, I think it's quite difficult to program in comparison to like your powerlifting, because powerlifting you're always aiming for a 1 rep max. Whereas in Strongman or Strongwoman, you could be prepping for a one rep max in the deadlift, but then also prepping for a rep event on the press. So you're having to mix up your kind of periodization of training for the same comp. So you're prepping for reps in one event, but prepping for absolute strength in another. So it's interesting. Keeps things.
There's a lot of crossover there to CrossFit in that it's. So do you know what in advance what events are coming, or is it literally on the day you get told? How does it work on that front?
So usually we know the events, but some comps they don't. And like when I went to the Arnold, we knew the events for day 1 and 2, and then day 3, which was finals, we knew one event, but then the other was a surprise event when we got there. I think it was ridiculous, like 700 or 800 pound sled drag or something. So on the day we were all like, I think we found that out like a week before we went out, but we only found the weight when we got there. So
wow. So it's a case of just always being prepared for everything.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, when you know the events, you can program better, and that does help massively. But I think I like having a surprise event, because I think if you practice something, you're obviously going to get good at it. But if it's a surprise, then you just need to be physically prepared in every element of the fitness. And I think that's quite exciting, because I think it's a true test of how strong or how fit you really are, rather than just being good at it because you've practiced it a lot, if that makes sense.
No, it does, absolutely. And are there elements that I think you were saying that you liked some and not others, so what are your sort of both strong points in terms of actually you tend to perform better, but also preferences as well in terms of likes?
Yeah, so I love my moving events, and they're where I tend to pick up the most points. So I won the farmers event at the Arnolds, which was just insane. I never thought I'd ever win an event in like my first international comp, so that was really cool. So I love farmers, I love yoke, I just love moving fast with weight. I think that comes from when I did sprinting and stuff. I like deadlifting. I used to love it, but it's the lift that I'm finding the hardest to progress. And I used to absolutely hate overhead. I used to despise all overhead events. But I've recently started working with the Olympic lifting coach, and now I actually look forward to my overhead events. So I'd say the only event that I'd really hate is like those endurance holds and carries.
Yeah, they don't sound fun, I won't lie. So going again behind the scenes there as well, sort of into, obviously with the training side of things, you will just have to sort of program as and where, but how sort of frequently are you training? And I mean, we've both got the same coach, Vicky, but obviously she just does your nutrition side of things, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions there as well, especially I think with the social media side of things, looking at the people who are the bigger on social media, like the Stallman brothers and Eddie, where you'll just see these sort of clickbait captions of, our 10,000 calorie diet, and I'm guessing people, well, I first thought, well, is that the same for women? Are women just having to smash food left, right and centre? So sort of how many days are you sort of training? How long are your sessions? And sort of then as well, the nutrition side of things, what is the setup and sort of rationale behind all that side of things as well?
Yeah, so at the moment I train 5 days a week. I'm programmed for, and then have my session with my weightlifting coach as well. But usually it is around 5 sessions a week. So I have like 2 upper days, 2 lower days, and an events day. So we'll be working on my press on the upper days, working on my deadlift and squat if it's relevant. Squat doesn't come up that much in Strongman, so it's more front squats, searcher squats, zombie squats, safety bar squats than your classic back squat, because they carry over more. I'll be in the gym usually 2 to 3 hours probably a session, depending on what I'm training and where I am in my prep, if I'm competing or if I'm in off season. When I'm competing, my sessions tend to be a bit longer because the intensity is a bit higher. And then with nutrition, so I worked with a nutrition coach when I first started competing to get my weight down, which worked a treat. But that's literally all we were looking at, just getting the weight off and being able to compete and still have energy. So after working with him, I kind of did my macros and everything myself, which worked really well. Always made weight, never had any issues. And then 2018, I had a bit of a back injury. And just from there, all my kind of macros seemed to be a bit mixed up. Like I couldn't cut weight on the same that I used to. I had to drop a bit more. And I knew Vicky from Team Strom. We are both athletes with them. So we got talking and I was like, I'm really struggling to drop weight. So she was like, let me help you. So we started working together in February. Initially, again, that was just to drop weight because I was sitting at like 66 kilos 3 weeks out when I needed to be 63. It was a fairly easy cut, to be fair. It wasn't anything horrific. And then since then, we've been working more on, I've been staying around comp weight, so I'm only about 2 kilos over now, but also working on nutrient timing, so when best to have meals, what those meals should consist of. I've recently done a podcast with her actually that should be coming out today, which is the 26th of June. I'm not sure when this will be out, so you can check that out on my YouTube. That's got all the ins and outs of what I'm doing with my nutrition and different kind of things around that. But yeah, so we're working on changing my body composition up at the moment, so I have more functional weight rather than carrying body fat that's not needed. And also it's learning about when different foods are needed as well. So I don't need to eat a massive carby meal if I'm just going for a 1 rep max, but if I'm doing like an endurance day where I'm going to be doing loads and loads of reps and loads of moving around, then I'm going to need a bit more food before that session. So it's been interesting in finding out different things. And I think Strongwoman is real difficult to program nutrition for yourself because there are so many different events and different days will require different kind of energy sources, I guess you could say. So yeah, having Vicky on board has really helped because I wouldn't have a clue where to start in the depth that she covers it in. So that's been super helpful and something that I'm really grateful to her for.
Sure. You mentioned there as well about sort of making weight, and I think that's something that I didn't even really realise was a thing. Like I knew it was a thing in sort of powerlifting and in some divisions of bodybuilding, but I don't think people realise that potentially that's a thing necessarily as well, because I think again it's that sort of misconception that everyone who does it is quite big, so to speak, especially because of the big names out there. So is there that there's different weight divisions, so how does all that side of things work there as well?
Yeah, so we're not all massive. There is, in the women's, there are 3 weight classes. So there are lightweights, middleweights and heavyweights. Lightweights are, it depends which comp you go to really. In the Arnold pathway, it is under 63 kilos, and in the official strongman games pathway, it's under 64 kilos. So there's not much in it, to be honest, but under 64, let's say. And then middleweight is under 82 kilos, so anywhere between 63 and 82. And then open weight is over 82. So they're quite big jumps. It's not like powerlifting where you've got like every 3 or 4 kilos. So for me, I naturally sit around 65, 66 kilos. So if there was like a 70 kilo or 75 kilo class, that would fit me perfectly because I'd be able to put on a bit of size. And I think I'd gain a bit of strength with that extra weight. But 82 kilos would mean me putting on like 20 kilos of functional weight, and that is just not feasible for me. So I fit quite nicely into the lightweight category now and enjoy it there. It's fiercely competitive as well. And then in the men's, they have under 80, under 90, under 105 and open. So they have an extra weight class. But again, I always think the lightweight athletes are, I'm not going to say more impressive because the weights that the opens are shifting is incredible. But if you look at kind of the weights that the lightweights move in comparison to their body weight, it's insane. I mean, the under 90 guys now are pushing like 360 kilos, which is just mind blowing. Rhiannon Lovelace in my weight class it's pulled a 600-pound deadlift, so it is crazy.
That's impressive, and I think that's something that's potentially maybe quite sad about the sport, and something we'll come on to now, that you don't hear about these people. Obviously, everyone likes the big, shiny, really impressive stuff, which is where you hear about these people on social media. But the fact that there is still, not these absolute huge people doing this sport, and like you said, doing very impressive stuff, you don't see it. So this comes on to quite nicely to a point of, what are your sort of hopes for the sport in the future, in that it's becoming more well known for sure. More people are becoming aware of it through, I think, these big names. But what are your hopes for the sport in terms of maybe more females doing it, or maybe people who aren't these huge, crazy, huge guys lifting big things getting recognition too? So what would your hopes be sort of in the next, let's go 5 years, realistically?
Yeah, I think it's growing massively. I mean, before Corona took over the world, this year was set to be the biggest. We had the most entries that we've ever had for the female side of the sport for the qualifiers, so that is awesome, and I'm hoping that people don't lose interest in that kind of continues to grow. But on the female side of the sport, I mean, British women have won World's Strongest Woman, I think, for the last 4 years. So Donna Moore's won it 3 times. Donna, please don't kill me if I got it wrong. And Andrea has won it once. So, and I think it was like the year that we like bailed out on the World Cup, like around a similar time, Donna Moore just won World's Strongest Woman, and it's like, there's absolutely no recognition. A lot of people don't know who she is, and she's going out there and things. The female side of the sport is just insane. She's won it. Rhiannon's won World's Strongest Woman in the lightweight division. There was 2 of us that podiumed at the Arnolds. So the women's side of the sport, like, we are actually really putting our name down on the map internationally. So I think as a country within the sport, we are doing really, really well, but it's just that recognition. And most of us that compete, it's not our job. We still have to work full time. There's not a lot of money in it. That is changing. So Official Strongman Games, within their qualifier this year, they're doing a pound for pound competition where there's like a significant prize fund in that, which is really cool. And the prize fund is exactly the same for the men and the women. So I think we're heading in the right direction there. But yeah, my hopes are just for I understand why the lightweight categories don't get as much recognition as the heavyweights, because the heavyweights is what people want to watch. That is like ultimate strength. Watching someone lift 200 kilos isn't as exciting as watching someone watch 500 kilos. Full stop. It's just not, because it's not as heavy. But I think with Official Strongman Games, the weight classes are getting more attention, and I think that's really cool. And my hopes are just for people to keep getting involved, for the sport to keep growing, for people to keep enjoying it, maybe for some more paid opportunities to come in, because I know there's like a lot of money in bodybuilding when you reach the higher level. So it would be nice to see that reflected in strongman as well, because I mean, people put so much effort into it, and you have to sacrifice so much of your kind of personal and social life to achieve these things. It'd just be nice to get a bit more recognition for it, I guess. But yeah, I'm happy with how the sport is, and I do it because I love it. So I'm happy with where it is, but it would be nice to see it progress and for more people to be aware of it.
Absolutely. And if ever it did grow to a point where, you could make more of a living off it, would that be something you would happily transition, or do you like having the balance of it being a hobby and having a career on the side? Or if this could become more of a career, would you want to go down that route? How would you feel about that?
Yeah, it's always a really difficult question, because I love working with the client group that I work with at work. So I work with children who have a learning disability and kind of challenging behavioural and mental health needs. So it's like really interesting. But my love and my passion is my sport. So if I could make money off it and do it as a career, I think I would definitely explore that and look into that. I'm already starting my personal training qualifications to kind of get my insurance and stuff, so I can start coaching properly. I mean, I've done seminars and things, but just to be properly covered and be able to help other people, because that's another thing that I love seeing new people come into the sport and being able to give them like tips and tricks that people gave me when I started, and just little things that can really improve their performance. And then see it, like I worked with a girl not long ago who had never done any Strongwoman event in her life. She was just kind of working on her booty, as a lot of girls that go to the gym are. And I was like, I took her under my wing and we did loads of sessions, and then she actually did a Strongwoman competition and she did like really well and she really enjoyed it, and that just filled up my heart. So I love helping other people as well as competing myself. So yeah, if I could do that as a job all day, every day, I think I would love it. But then there is that I know a lot of people that go into it as work, then don't have as much time to train. So it's harder to get that work-life balance when I've got a totally different career. So
we'll see.
Time will tell.
Time will tell, indeed. So this is going to come on to, I think I sort of mentioned this to you as well, sort of looking at myths and misconceptions, and we've already touched on quite a few there. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily got a bad stigma, but it's definitely got when you say the word strong woman or strong man, something comes to mind. And I think, again, it is to do with what is big in social media at the moment. So what comes to mind because of what is readily available. So if you type it in on YouTube or Instagram, you get the big names coming up, the huge people doing these crazy mad things. And I think then people then do think this is what it is across the board. Mm-hmm. So you'll have had first-hand experience, and I'm guessing potentially comments, both positive and negative. So I've got a few that, I mean, I'll touch upon. I think we've already covered a few, but it'd be interesting to hear yours as well. So my first one is this one that you just have to, I think it's because of what you see, like Eddie Hall just eat stupid, mad, crazy amounts to be able to be that strong. Now, you've already mentioned that that's not the case at all, but it'd be interesting to sort of hear as to what other people potentially have thought and said to you in sort of the nutrition side of things as well, and misconceptions you've had in your experience as well.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, personally, I don't get that many misconceptions when it comes to my nutrition, because I'm visibly small. I'm not massive. I have muscle on me, but I don't look huge or I don't look jacked. But people will be like, so do you have to have, like, do you stick to a really strict diet and all of these things, especially like at work when they see me with my Tupperware and things. They're like, oh, is that really strict? Like, do you have to eat this? Do you have to eat that? And no, I can eat what I want as long as I'm fueling efficiently, basically. But a mistake I see a lot of people make when they come into the sport is, I need to eat everything. I need to get really big. Mass moves mass. So I wouldn't say it's a stigma towards me, but an attitude towards the sport in general is, I need to be big, I need to be massive. Eddie Hall eats this much food, so I need to eat this much food. And what happens is they pile on loads of weight really quickly. They put on body fat that they don't need. It's not functional weight. They don't really get that much stronger, and they get really unfit and they can't move. And like I mentioned earlier, you need to be fit, you need to be consistent, you need to be able to perform in loads of different types of events. And they just can't, because their nutrition is way off the mark. So yeah, I think that misconception of I need to eat loads is just gonna get you into a rut. And my advice to anyone starting is, do not plow yourself with food, because you do not need it. You need to fuel efficiently. I mean, when I talk to I guess bodybuilders, powerlifters, I'm potentially in a bit more, but I think that is just because of the type of training that we do.
Yeah,
like your food has to match your training, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So my calories are relatively high on a training day. I have quite a lot of carbs, but it's not excessive. It's not a crazy amount. It's perfectly doable, it's comfortable, and sometimes I could still eat plenty more at the end of the day. So yeah, you don't have to plow yourself with food, and it can actually be counterproductive.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a mistake made in a lot of sports as well, to be honest, where it's strength. And I think it definitely comes down to seeing what the big people are doing, the big names, the pros are doing. And like you've said, if it's not functional for you, you're just going to get fat, basically, because it doesn't matter that you're doing this sport. If you were just to do that anyway, you just get, it's unique for sure. Makes sense. What about sort of family and friends' response to you doing it? How have they been? Was there that sort of wariness to start with again because of sort of the images you see of, you know, the videos everyone's seen about Eddie Hall doing the deadlifts and them doing these crazy stuff in the events? Do people sort of potentially make, was that safe, or worries, or what have you experienced in the past with that?
I get the safe thing a lot. Like Matt, my partner, his grandparents, when I first started doing it, and if they ever saw a video or came to watch me compete, they'd be like, "Oh, Chloe, you be careful." Like, they get really worried that it's going to hurt me. And my family have always been very supportive of whatever I've chosen to do. I'm very lucky in that sense. But when I did start, I think a few people were like, "Oh, well, don't get too big," or "Oh, you don't want to end up looking like a man." And I mean, we've got an old next door neighbour. He's like, well, he's 82, and he's like, "Oh, when I was working out at home, he's like, oh, you want to be careful. You're a lovely looking young lady. You don't want to look like a man." So yeah, I think family and friends generally are supportive because I explain what I do. They've seen it now. They're much more. They've always been accepting, but they get it now that they've seen me compete and that I haven't turned into the Hulk, and I'm still very feminine. And they get the headspace that I'm in, and if I am prepping and I can't go for a meal out, they understand that, which is massively helpful, because you do have to sacrifice a lot, and I'm sure you know, with prepping and things, when people don't get it, it makes life really, really difficult. Yeah. I'd say the most stigma I get is from people that I don't know, because they don't get it, they don't understand it, they've never experienced it, they haven't seen anyone else doing it, so it's just those misconceptions. I don't know if you were planning on coming on to that again, or whether you want me to go into that a bit more.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because I think in a lot of sports, and if people don't get it, you do get that negative side to it. But what are the sort of, you expand on what you were going to say there. I think it's just going to flow more logical than me trying with the sentence there to make a smooth transition. You just go with it.
Yeah, so like I said, my neighbour was like, "Oh, you need to be careful or you'll start looking like a bloke." I met a guy, I was redeployed recently with work with the whole pandemic. He found out what I did and he was like, "Why do you do that? Why would you enjoy that? That's a man's sport." Like, on social media is the absolute worst. I mean, people are pretty kind to me on the whole, but I have had it's the ones that go viral. So there was one of me literally at Highland Games having a laugh, picking up a stone, and it went viral on Reddit. And the amount of people that were like, "She looks like a man, that's fake weights, she's taking steroids, she can't lift that without taking steroids." That is another massive misconception, that every strong woman is on steroids. It is allowed, it's not forbidden, so people do take them. Personally, I don't. It just isn't in line with my values. I've always competed in clean sports. I think that's part of why I decided to stay clean. But so many people are like, "Well, you can't do that unless you're on steroids." I've had people saying they can see my penis in videos. People saying those muscles don't look right. And I mean, I'm not big. I think it's just people that don't understand it, or that feel inferior in some way because they can't do what we can do. They always feel a need to criticise. And I mean, for some people it really gets them down, and some of the other girls get it a whole lot more than me. Like, it's constant and it's relentless, and it is just bullying, and it is unacceptable. And I think it comes from a place of misunderstanding and jealousy, really. I mean, how what's the word? Emasculating must it be if you're like a guy that goes to the gym and then you have a little 60 kilo girl that can pick up more than you? And I think that's where it comes from a lot, that, "Oh, well, because I can't do that, there must be a reason for why you can." And that's where the slandering comes in. And I mean, I find it kind of funny. My dad and my partner actually get more defensive than I do. My dad will be on the internet like, which is, it's really sweet of him that he cares so much. But I think giving the attention to those kind of people is just unnecessary. It fuels their fire. Just look at it, laugh, move on. I think it's something that women in the sport will always get, because it is classically a man's sport, and I guess bodybuilders probably get that a lot as well. I think it's something that's common in all strength sports, because it's not classically a feminine sport, and we're going against the grain a bit, and people don't like what they don't know, do they?
No, for sure. So you said that it doesn't really bother you. You're not someone to let it bother you at all.
Well, no, I'm confident in myself now. I mean, it's taken me a long time to get there, but I like how I look. I know I'm good at what I do. I love what I do. So why would I let people that I don't know interfere with that? I mean, it's just wasted time, isn't it? Spent on people that don't know me, don't know anything about what I do. I think it is very easy to let those things get to you, but at the end of the day, you've just got to, if you enjoy something and you love it, then why let people get in the way of that? And there's moments where I think that's unnecessary. You've taken it a step too far, but then the next minute, it's on a computer, isn't it? It's, their opinions don't really matter. Half the time they don't even have a profile picture, so are they even real? Or are they just doing it for logs?
If people said these sort of things to you in person, do you think it would potentially impact you differently?
For me, no, because I have grown that self-confidence, and I know that I'm very, I wouldn't say lucky, because I've worked hard on it to be able to be kind of sure of myself, but I am very sure of myself. I can see that I don't look like a man. I'm achieving great things, and it makes me happy. So to let that get to me would just, I don't know, it's just something that doesn't bother me. And I know it bothers other people, but for me, it just doesn't. I can't explain why. It's quite comical, I guess.
It is quite funny. It's no profile picture. It's like, who is this? What is this?
Who are you? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people do have like trolling accounts, don't they? Like they just do it for shits and gigs. So
yeah, I think it's the same with me. I always think if this is their idea of fun, then it is actually just funny, because it's like, I think my life's bad sometimes, but if this is what you do for fun, then yeah, my life's all right, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it's never a personal attack either. I think that's what helps, because so many of us in the community experience it, and I only experience it on a very low level. I think it's aimed at the community rather than you as a person, because they're saying the same thing to everybody. It's not as if they're going, Chloe, I don't like you because your shoulders look like this, your whatever. And it's about my looks as well. It's not about me as a person. If they was to say something like, you're a nasty, self-absorbed, blah blah blah, that would hurt. But because it's just about, it's an exterior thing, isn't it? And I think it is what it is. You can look in a mirror and see that you're not what they're telling you are, so let them crack on.
Something that actually isn't related to this, you mentioned it a bits ago about sort of prepping for a comp. How does that look in terms of time frames, and how does that change in terms of, it's totally off tangent here, but it's just come to me now, because I'm sort of very clued up on bodybuilding prep, what that looks like, how things have to change on that side of things. But I'm guessing your sort of dieting isn't as extreme because it's not for aesthetics, and I'm guessing changing is more a case of prepping for an event, whereas in bodybuilding it's a case of training is changed around the fact that your plan might not change at all, but if it does change, it's based on the fact that you are in a deficit and you won't be able to hack the strength as much as you are. Like for me, my strength's coming down, but yours needs to maintain, or if anything, go up. So how does that look different then?
So optimal kind of prep time training wise is about 12 weeks, I would say. And it's just that it's going to go from more like a hypertrophy kind of, if you're going for a max event, let's say, it's going to go from more hypertrophy into a bit of a power phase and then into a strength phase. So you're constantly kind of working up and up and up towards, so you'll start off with a lot of reps, high volume, and then it'll taper down into like your doubles, singles, or like 1 to 2 sets of one. But like I say, because there's such a variety of events, it's never linear. So you might be working up to a single in one event, and then actually your reps are increasing on a different compound movement because you're going to be doing reps in that event. But a lot of the time, as the comps get higher level, they're always heavy, so it doesn't deviate too much. It's quite consistent. Your intensity in training is going to go up as you reach competition. Like you say, in bodybuilding, it's kind of coming down, but by the end of a Strongwoman prep, you feel like Superwoman. You feel like the strongest woman on the planet if it's done right. So it's a really cool process. And I mean, when I always start a training block, and recently I started prepping for a max deadlift, and when I did Britain's Strongest Woman last year, I did 160 deadlift for 8 reps, and it felt like really good. And I went into the gym the other day and I did 160 for 3, and I was like, Jenny, why can't I pull it for 8? I did it before. And she was like, because you're at the start of the prep. By the end of it, you will be able to. And that's what's really cool, like seeing that progression from where you start to where you finish in such a short amount of time. Like, she's a wizard. It's real clever. But also like the food side of things, because I'm in a weight class, my food is likely to go down near a comp just so I can make weight, but we never enter like an extreme deficit. And for the Arnold, because it was a 24-hour weigh-in, we could manipulate water so that I could keep my calories relatively normal, and I could then carb load and rehydrate after weigh-in. So 24-hour weigh-ins are really, really helpful because it means you can stay on more calories as you prep, because you can just manipulate your water slightly to bring it down. Although I would never do, some people in strongman do like epic water cuts. They'll cut like 10 to 12 kilos just in water, which just looks like hell to me. I would never want to do that, which is why I stay around my weight.
That's amazing. That's so different, and I think that's really insightful actually, because you're saying that it's you start off it quote unquote weaker, and you get better and sort of you feel better as you're going along because you're getting having to bring food down crazy amounts, and you feel by the end of it amazing. Whereas for us it's like the opposite end. As time goes on, we feel more and more rubbish. We're getting weaker. We look a bit better, but we don't. That's interesting. Is that?
I mean, we feel better in terms of strength.
Yeah, no,
you're more likely to get injured towards the end stages of prep, so that's why you need to be like really on it with recovery and stuff, because when you're shifting real heavy weights all the time, it's really easy to get injured. But I guess I don't know in bodybuilding if that's similar, because your energy is so sapped, whether it's easier to like
you definitely get more risk, and recovery definitely does take a hit, which is why then you do have to sometimes manipulate training that's not sensible or feasible to just do stupidly, sort of lower reps for high weight, because as you get leaner you've got less sort of tissue around the joints, so they take more of a battering. It's been a weird one because I've not gone I was on a training program for off season and kept that training plan through to the start of my prep, and then Corona happened, so I've had like 5 different home training plans as more and more equipment's come in. I've had opportunities to utilize my gym's facilities here and there, so I've not really had like a structured training program and then seen volume come and go, if that makes sense. But I know for a fact that that's what it wouldn't have stayed the same as it was, whether it was the same exercises with different rep ranges, or it would have definitely had to change, because I would not have been able to hack what I was doing now, I don't think. So, and if I wasn't, the weights would definitely be coming down. I've definitely seen that in some areas, not all, which is weird. Whereas yours grow as time has definitely. You try, but in some areas, for me, like pressing and stuff, it just disappears.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's pretty tough being on like a full-on prep. I've always been like curious about bodybuilding, but I just don't think I could. Like whenever I peaked and then like you come down after a competition, like I find that frustrating, like not being able to lift what I could lift when I was peaking. So if I was like to be able to lift even less because of my energy stores going down, I would just be devastated. It's that different mindset, isn't it, in different sports?
Because I'm quite a stubborn person, very sort of, I know it's going to happen, but when you start to see it happening, it's mental. But now I'm like, because not everyone does lose strength. Like I think you will lose strength. Sometimes you can actually progress. Like it's weird because I've always been a really bad presser, but at some point during the prep, I then pressed a PB. But then I've used a leg press within my gym facility, and it was so off what it was before. But then is it that thing of I haven't done a leg press in months because of Corona, so I can't really be accurate with this.
Yeah.
It's been a
weird. It's that head game as well, isn't it? Knowing what's on there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I haven't done this for ages, so obviously I can't do it. When actually, if you just put it on, didn't know what it was, you might well do it very, very easily.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%, maybe. Who knows? Corona just messed up everything, hasn't it? It's just messed up.
For sure.
How's your training been at home? Actually, that'd be an interesting one to know. Like, have you got access to things? Have you managed to keep up with it? How has it been for you?
Yeah, so the gym that I go to, Rhino's Gym, they lent me loads of equipment, so my training hasn't really changed that much. I'm now starting a 12-week prep to max overhead and max deadlift, which has been really, really helpful. And then with the PTs being able to like function outside, I've been able to get sessions in with my weightlifting coach, which has been invaluable. And I mean, just having someone there makes such a difference. It's something that's quite new to me. So that's been amazing. But also, as well as lucky as I am to have all the kit and things, it's given me more time to work on weaknesses, so like on my mobility and movement, which is things that I think when we're in everyday life, it's been something that I've always done, but I've been able to work even harder on it. So it's been a bit of a blessing in disguise, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that for sure. So, I mean, I think everyone has the same sort of answer when it comes to something like this, as to what are your aspirations for yourself within the sport. And I know everyone wants to win this, and everyone has, big goals, but we can obviously talk about the ultimate goals, but within the next few years, what are you really, really setting out to achieve for yourself?
I already surpassed my kind of expectations really with getting to the Arnold. When I first started Strongwoman, my dream was just to compete there, just to go and experience it. So making finals at that competition was just like mind-blowing, but it's made me realise that I'm better than I think I am and can achieve more. I don't like to set absolute goals, so I don't want to say I want to hit this number or I want to win this contest. I think because then you either overshoot the mark and you're never going to reach that goal, it's unrealistic, or you undershoot the mark and you become complacent and you don't hit what you're capable of. So my goals are to just keep doing what I'm doing, get stronger, get fitter, get faster, all of those things, and just see where it takes me. I think now that I've had a taste of international comps, that's definitely something I want to do more of, and I'd like to be in the top handful in those comps. So I guess that's a bit of a kind of set in stone goal, but other than that, just to keep improving. I don't want to put any limits on myself, so onwards and upwards.
I quite like that. So it's just about your own personal journey there, not necessarily obviously having the titles and having the wins will be ace, but it's more about you and knowing that you're always getting better at what. Do you have like lifting goals, like any sort of numbers that you really want to hit, or again, is it just pushing forward? And
yeah, I have some numbers in mind on the deadlift. I mean, at SFN last year, I came this close to locking out 220. So I'd like to. My ultimate goal is a bit bigger than that, but I'm not gonna put it out there.
You have to do it then. Once it's on the internet, that's it. You've got to do it.
That's it. No, but there's a rounded number in pounds near that weight that I'd like to hit. People can take that as they will. They'll probably be able to figure it out. And for overhead, just to get better at it. It's something that's always been a weakness of mine. I'm working on it really hard. It's coming on a lot. Yeah, it would be lovely to be able to, I'm going to put the number out there. I'd love to be able to put 100 kilo above my head, but that is like an ultimate goal. I've got 15 kilos to go. So I'm hoping, I'm not going to say put a time frame on it because I think that's silly. It's not going to be any time in the immediate future, but all time overhead goal, I would love to pop 100 kilo up.
That's incredible. And anyone who lifts, especially as I'm going to say as a natural female, because as natural females, our pressing game is pretty weak. Mine's
so hard,
mine's shocking. Mine's horrendous. I'm not going to say what like I press because I'm lucky in that I look the way I do. Oh god, this sounds really big-headed. Like people think I can press more than I can. Put it that way. Like your shoulders are okay. I'm like, yep. And you can't press that much. Yep. And it's embarrassing. It is actually embarrassing, but that I can just.
But you train for a different thing. Like you train for aesthetics. I train for strength, and I think that's something people get so mixed up on because bodybuilders look so swollen. They look so big. People automatically think, wow, they're going to be really, really strong, but they don't train for strength. That's not their goal. The same way that I don't train to look good, I train to be strong, and they're two totally different things that people often get really muddled up. So
it's true, but still, the amount of girls who do the sport that I do. Even Vicky said it to me once, like when I sent her like a video of me doing some sort of handstand push-ups you program me at home, she goes, "Yep, you're very, very weak at overhead pressing." I went, "Yes."
That's why I started the Olympic weightlifting, because it's all about technique rather than overhead strength, and it's a game changer, I'll tell you that.
I've just accepted that it's a weakness of mine. I can't have everything. Like, at the end of the day, to be honest, if my shoulders progress and I'm still lifting there in my sport, that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
If they're going to come on and I'm still pressing the pink dumbbells, which it's slightly more than that, like.
But you look good doing it, so it's okay.
Fine. That's all I'm after. Anyway, I think we've covered the bulk of what I wanted to cover. However, we do come on to the final question, the signature question, the most important question there is. Your ultimate favourite cereal?
Ooh. The first one that popped in my head is Cocoa Pops. It's just a classic, isn't it? It's a safe bet, tastes good, it's quick, it's convenient, gives you a little bit of chocolatey milk after. Can't beat it. You look disappointed.
Extremely upset with that response. Let me rephrase that. You can have whatever cereal you want. The macros don't matter. And for ultimate taste and ultimate enjoyment, you would still go for Cocoa Pops.
I might throw some Frosties in there just to spice it up a bit. So a bit of a mixture. I haven't explored many cereals, to be honest. I'm more of a bacon and egg girl when it comes to breakfast.
Yeah, you don't have to eat cereal for breakfast. Jesus Christ. I
do snack on it, but it's just, I'm so sorry that I've disappointed, but
I just think
keep it simple.
It's simple, but I think you're missing out on a world of opportunities and wonderful euphoric experiences right there. So I think you should, that should be your big aim right here, is not to win, world's strongest, to go into Morrison's and pick up something different in the cereal aisle, because you're missing out on a world of opportunities right here.
Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, mate, I can send you a full list. Just anything that's Cocoa Pops is literally, for me, a very good one for volume. That's like my calories are a bit lower. I'm going to have volume. But
they're so good. But not if you leave the milk in too long. I don't like soggy Cocoa Pops. You have to pour the milk in and then
if you want
straight in.
Yes, I think I recommend this to someone else actually. Lion Bar cereal, it's called. Morrison's £2 at the moment. I'd highly recommend that.
I'll take a look.
Just something else. And don't go Rice Krispies either, because that's like just as bad, if not worse. So
yeah, I can't do Rice Krispies. They're too bland.
Yeah, they are pretty basic. But again, volume, they do the job. Anyway, Chloe, thank you for your time today, and thank you for providing both myself and all the listeners out there, all the 10 listeners. I'm hoping there's more than 10. Some valuable insights into Strongwoman. And actually, just to finish off, one bit of advice: if someone listening to this thinks, you know what, that sounds quite interesting, quite something I might want to do potentially when gyms reopen, how would you get into that? What would sort of be the advice of making the first steps? Are there clubs? Is there societies? Is there a website to sort of glow down? What would be the first route?
Yeah, so follow all of us strong women on Instagram and stuff. We're very, very approachable and are always happy to chat to people about the sport and getting into the sport. I'm just looking now for the Facebook page. That is a good one to join. Give me 1 second. I think it's called England and Britain's Strongest Woman competition page. Something like that. I can try the 100% CA England's and Britain's Strongest Woman competition page. It's a private group, so just ask to join it, and all the competitions and information is on there. You can ask questions and people will get back to you about how to get into it, what gyms you can go to. I think there's a page called Clean and Pressed as well. They've got loads of information on gyms that are around. But another thing I just want to mention, if you are getting into Strongwoman, don't worry about the weight classes when you first start, because in like novice and inters comps, weight classes aren't a thing. And I think you just need to get into the sport, enjoy the sport, find where you naturally sit and compete there, because it brings a load of extra stress that you just don't need when you're a beginner and you're trying to enjoy it and get into it. So that would be my top piece of advice.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and thank you to everyone who has listened, and we shall see you, well, I'll see you on the next one.